Good afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to be dissecting some Macintosh SEs and Pluses. So I came into contact with these yesterday, and before powering up these systems, I like to pop them open and just make sure that there's nothing major going on before attempting to power on. So, and I'll sort of run through some of the common issues with these systems that I've come across. Generally, the Macintosh SE, I like it, the pluses that I've been working on lately, are pretty durable systems, and very few things happen to go wrong with them. So, get our iFixit version of a Mac Cracker up here. This is a T15 Torx screw. This one's tight. Come on, you little Torx. So two of these systems that I'm going to be going through today, I purchased, and so they're mine. So two of the SEs. The other two are sort of on loan. I just wanted to. A colleague of mine came across them, and I was like, well, let me take them apart and check them out before we do anything with them, just to make sure that they're okay. So the main thing that we worry about with a Mac SE is a little seed or something that somebody stored in there. Is the battery on the motherboard. That's the first thing to take a look at when you come across an SE. So disconnecting the SCSI cable, disconnecting the floppy cable, and then I'm gonna flip this up and disconnect the main power cable. I can see, I don't know if it's coming across. Yeah, it's not going to be easy to see there, but this power cable is actually kind of loose already, so that makes it a little bit easier. Alright, so once you have everything disconnected for the SE, unlike the Plus, which is just straight in, the SE you pull out a little bit. There are little catches that grab onto the case sometimes, and so you drag out, pull the motherboard out, or logic board out a little bit until these tabs clear the logic board, and then tilt out this way. Don't pull too much because there's a speaker connector in there. So pop that out, and we can see here we have 4 megs of RAM. 2 of it is 100 nanosecond and 2 of it is 70 nanosecond. And we have our VARTA, which is the thing that we worry about with these things. Look at this. Try to get that in there. 1989. It seems like these 89 ones last a long time. I popped open my Apple IIgs today. I'm ashamed to say. It also had the original VARTA in it from 1989. So it seems like these 89 ones tend to not leak. Good year, 1989 for VARTAs. So that's cool. We got no major leakage that we can see, so you just want to look around and make sure that none of the traces or anything show corrosion. But yeah, this looks really nice and clean. There's a little bit of corrosion on the metal, but that's sort of pretty common for these things. Let's pop this back in. Again, I'm gonna sort of line it up. And slide it down. Leave that over there for the time being. Okay. Now let's connect up our power cable. Okay, so that is now pushed all the way in. I'm going to disconnect the power cable from, I'm going to pull this neck board off real quick so that I don't bust up against it. I'm going to disconnect the power from the hard drive. I just want to, I don't know, with these old ones, this is actually a Seagate, so it's probably fine, but some of these things have some stiction, and if you apply voltage for too long without being careful, it can kind of overload the drive. So I'm just using a pair of needle nose to pull on this a little bit more. Can get a little bit more force on it. See why I pulled that neck board off? For stuff like that. Okay, so let's pop this neck board back on. And we're gonna check the main voltages here. Okay, we're powered off. So first we're going to check the 12 volt. Neckboard, this, just always want to double check to make sure that grounding wire's there. Alright, and also just going to give it a quick inspection to make sure that there's nothing that looks totally out of whack here. I don't see any major leakages or anything like that. Let's pop it on, see what happens. Alright. So that's not bad. 11.97 volts. Can't get a whole lot better than that. The fan isn't ridiculously loud. 5.01 volts. Yeah. So this seems to be in really good shape. Are we getting any image? Yep. So we're getting our screen with the cursor, and we get our flashing question mark. Alright, so this system is basically good. So this SE would be good to start using. I'm not going to boot this hard drive up just in case there's any personal information that happens to be visible. Okay. System 2. Got another SE. Hopefully it's as carefree and awesome as the first one. This one, the screw is a lot easier to loosen up, so I have a feeling that this one had been open at some point in its life. So this is one of the ones that I purchased. So this is my SE. So my luck, this one is probably chock full of rot. Okay, so this one, we see we have no hard drive. Jerks stole the hard drive out of this one. Well, no, yeah, this used to be a hard drive model because it has the blank over top of the front. Oh well, it's okay. It's not like we're going to use the hard drive most likely anyway. Again, so let's pull the motherboard out a little bit. This one, instead of the round fan, has the squirrel cage. Pull the motherboard out a little. Oh, I forgot to take out the floppy cable and power cable. This power cable was also a little bit loose, which is not good because the looser those kinds of connections are, the more resistance that can happen, and then that kind of creates some extra heat inside the systems, and then that's never a good thing. Connections can fail. Okay, so again, we're just going out a little bit. Take off that. And we have these really big big Sims. Those are cool. Look at that. I think based off of the fact that the resistor's been snipped there, these are 1 meg Sims. These are very cool old 1 meg Sims, that's for sure. Awesome. Alright, and if we look here, somebody already snipped the battery out of this one. Alright, excellent. Good news so far. Good news, everyone. Okay, put that in there. Let's pop our power connector in. The other reason I'm leaving these floppy connectors unconnected is that, you know, these can have some gummed up eject mechanisms. Actually, let's do this one. I can actually see that this one has a drive in it, so most likely it has a gummed up eject mechanism. Or has a disc in it, I meant to say. Oh, pop this off before I bust it. So many things to keep track of. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna pop this off just because since I can see that there's a disc in. One, I want to see what's on that disc eventually, but two, I want to just get it ready and starting to get lubed. Let's see how that eject mechanism sort of feels by hand. So there's a couple little tabs here. Just lift it up, take it out. Set that aside for a second. Pop our motherboard back in. Logic board. Sorry, logic board. Connecting up the power cable. And connect the neckboard. Oh, this one is missing that extension. Hold on one second. So the analog boards have a little connector here for the hard drive power cable. Okay, let's check our voltages when we switch this on. Start off with 12 volt. Okay, we got bong. See, our voltage is a little high. For the 12 volt anyway. There is some adjustment inside the power supply for these things, but okay, we got a screen, we got our cursor, and we should have a flashing question mark in a second. There we go. All right, so we got a good basic system here. So at least one of the SEs I bought is functional. So our next SE, this one was originally a 1 megabyte with 800K drive and 20 meg hard drive, and this person liked whatever cartoons these are. Nice. They might be giant sticker on the side. We might have to just like, I don't know. Do you think this phone line still exists? Dial a song, 718-387-6962. Just a regular call to Brooklyn. So I'm wondering if that still exists. What do we have on this side? More stickers. Another They Might Be Giants dial song. Alright. This thing was loved. You can see these screws have some corrosion on them, so that's a little concerning. Oh wow. Yeah, this one's real tight. So we look in there, you can see that screw has all kinds of caked corrosion on it, so that's not what I want to see. This one, the black coating is corroded off, or is rusted off. At least it came out a little bit easier. Oh, that wasn't the right screw for here. You can see they used one of the plastic screws instead of one of the machine screws for that one. So that's not great to see. All right, hold your breath. Here we go. Oh, there we go. All right, if we look inside this case, we can see there's some corrosion or whatever this sort of metal paint they use on these things is corroded. We can see here lots of corrosion on the bottom there. We can see some discoloration. Not ideal so far. So let's pull out our SCSI cable. See, there's all rust along the edge here. This screw is rusted all along the power supply. So this thing must have been stored in somebody's basement for an extended period. Alright, so let's pull the motherboard out. Oh, gonna disconnect the power connector. So how I do this when they're really connected like this. Let's see if I can get the camera to show you. Ooh, this one's very loose. Okay, so I'm just taking this, the same T15 that I used to open it up. I'm just using that as sort of a pry bar to push up on the upper tab of the power connector to release the little latch. Okay, pull that up, and I forgot to pull off the neckboard. Okay, so coming out. As we're coming out, we can already see that there's some rust staining on the motherboard. I heard something fall. That's not great. Okay. Oof. Okay, so this one we're not gonna power on. I'm not real happy about some of what I'm seeing so far. So you can see there's a good amount of rust over here. Some rust over here. If we... Here's a bonus screw. The analog board actually doesn't look bad, but I still want to do some... I'm going to totally take this one apart and get rid of the rust and clean all that up before powering it up. Okay, and so then let's zoom in a little bit here. If we look at our logic board, we can see we've got a lot of corrosion happening. See, there's a lot of white stuff out of the plus side of the Varta. This Varta was an 87. Apparently the 87 Vartas were not as great of a vintage as the 89s. See, there's quite a bit of corrosion all over this board. So it's a good thing that I didn't power this up. I have a feeling that this was powered up. The person I bought these two SEs from had a picture where, you know, one of them was powered up. They said the other one wouldn't power up, and it was fully booted. And so that means it had to be this system because this one has a hard drive. The other one doesn't have a hard drive. This one, our resistors still in place, and just by looking at these sims we can see we got a 256K sims, so it's a 1 meg system, hasn't been upgraded. So I'm gonna take this, let's get rid of that Varta right now before I forget. Okay, see, kind of ugly. Let's see what it looks like under the microscope. Switch up to microscope. Not great stuff. Oh, hold on 1 second. This is gonna look a little weird for a second, so avert your eyes. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had my camera on upside down. It was disorienting me. Let's see, we got this little glass cap. A lot of rust around there. If we look at it though, the traces don't look terrible. So that's good to see. Yeah, there's a lot of white, but most of the traces seem to be in good shape. So, you know, it is what it is. Cool. All right, so let's go back to here. All right, so that one's gonna need some work. And let's get to the system that I'm actually really excited about. So this is Mac Classic II. All of these are gross. They've been in storage for a long time. This one, you can see, this was a well-loved, well-used system. You can see that screen burn in very clearly on this system. So it had a good life. But I forget if it was my first or second stream. I have a Mac Classic and a Mac Classic II from my purchases of the Sour 16 compact Macs, and I've had an issue with the Classic II ever since I got it. It's been totally recapped, but it doesn't work. There's all sorts of graphical corruption. You know, I've recapped it twice. I've gone and looked at all the traces, and I can't find anything physically wrong with it. So this will, once I get this one apart, hopefully get this system running. Hopefully that'll help me figure out what's wrong with the other Mac Classic II that I have. I'm kind of worried that it has either bad RAM chips or bad ROM, but hopefully the ROM from this one will help me diagnose the other one. Although, well, let's pop it open and see what it looks like. Can be a little sticky around the top. Oh, there we go. Alright. So, first thing to see is that the inside is nice and clean. There's no leakage. So that's very exciting, because mine, when I opened them up, the bottom was basically like rotted out. These metal side pieces were all, well, in the Mac Classic, they were basically totally rotted through. But on the Classic II, it was a little bit better. So we can see we're mostly in good shape here. Gonna pop this off. Pull out the hard drive power cable. Disconnect the SCSI. Disconnect the floppy cable. You can see we've got some fuzz that's collected in there. Like I said, this thing definitely had a full life. So the Mac Classic and the Classic II are not tanks. Unlike the Mac Plus and the Mac SE, which are pretty much tanks, aside from the Vartas. One of the things that we run into with the Classics is capacitor leakage. Let's pop off this analog board and have a little closer look there. I'm just using the screwdriver to get under there and pry up the outer edge. These have this little center pin that helps keep those, that pushes through and latches the little retention clippy jobby majigs. So get a little bit of a closer look. All I'm doing is pulling out that center pin. When that gets squished in, it causes these two little legs to fly out, and that's what retains the plastic on there. But if you get that center pin out, then you can pull out the whole clip. Hopefully without breaking. Normally it's the Plus and the SE that you have to worry about the analog board cracking. This one looks like someone might have gone over it at some point. This doesn't, I mean, the solder generally looks factory, but there's a whole lot of residual flux, which they typically didn't leave on the factory ones. But so let's zoom in a little here. Even these right there, that solder joint's bad. When these crack, especially the flyback transformer, you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Oh no, that's just one of the pots. But it's near the flyback transformer. Normally you want to look around there, make sure that there's no crack joints here. The main power connectors, which are over here, these are hardwired, so unlike the SE and the Plus, they have connectors that link the power cables to the motherboard. For the most part, these are all soldered in, so they don't tend to crack as much. This one can, but if we take a look there, they all look good. So this analog board looks pretty good. Set that aside. Let's pop it off and try to see if the capacitors look bad. Zoom back out. Take off our anode. This is very gummy. Okay, that's disconnected. Oh, gotta take off the grounding wire. Okay, that's disconnected. That's disconnected. And the yoke connector that just slides off. Some pins. Okay, and then we have just a couple of screws here. And that should be free. What do we got? Oh, speaker. Alright, so I'm going to set this aside. We are not going to work with this again today. Alright, so if we look at our analog board, down here by the speaker, these caps are the problem caps. The real bad ones anyway. I wind up replacing all of them when I recap these. But these are the ones that I find leak pretty aggressively. And if you look down in between this little inductor and this cap, you can see there's some shininess, and that's in all likelihood some cap juice. So all these caps need to be replaced. Those generally aren't damaging to the board. These analog boards are pretty durable. But these are the ones we have to worry about. So here's the main meat of today's stream. This board, and really it doesn't look bad. Okay, so we have a little bit of corrosion around the floppy cable or floppy connector, but you can see there's no major leakage from the battery. Again, we're probably dealing with a 89 Varta, our favorite vintage. Oh, this is a 97 Varta. Wow. So whatever they did with this strain of Vartas, that was pretty good. I mean, at least they're not exploded. So yeah, that generally looks good. But then if we look around here, see how you can see some shininess around these caps? There's some like fuzz that's sort of adhered to the motherboard around there. So this is all indicative of the caps leaking. And in a lot of these boards, so these were one of the boards where they sort of up their PCB game and had smaller traces, and so it's really easy for these traces to get damaged. So yeah, we can see that there's some moisture around a lot of these there, right? You can see some stuff that's stuck to the board. So this is all going to need to be cleaned. But this is the same PCB as my Mac Classic II. So hopefully we can get this one working and then use that. Oh, broke my gloves. Use that to help fix the other one. All right, so how are we going to do this? Yeah, we're gonna just use the regular old soldering iron for this. Let's take a look in the microscope while the soldering iron is heating up. And here you can see how there's like fuzzies collected around the bottom of the caps. That's pretty indicative of cap juice. You can see how those traces like this, let's see, need a pointer for under the microscope. There you go. So you can see how this trace is nice and brown, but then this one is starting to get some color to it. So that trace is probably starting to go. I had on mine this whole area basically was screwed up, and this trace all the way over to here, this is like a junction of 3 different traces that come together, and they basically just fell right off the board. So we're going to try to avoid doing that. We can see there's a little bit of discoloration there, so there might be a little corrosion under there. You can see, again, where all this moisture is collected, that's most likely cap juice, and you can see there's some corrosion right there. Alright, so we're gonna get started on this, and I think we'll be okay. Let's check some more of these caps. The nice thing is I don't see much in the way of like big nasty color changes or anything like that. There might be some little fine spots, but in general I think we're okay. Let's go over here. Juicy juice. Juicy juice. Okay, so not great, but not the worst. So let's see here. I'm trying to debate whether it'll be easier to show this with a microscope or the vertical camera. So let's try this first. Alright, so when I take these off, I generally like to add a little bit of solder to each joint first. Oh yeah, okay, so when the caps leak, you get like a nice fish aroma. And nice there being sarcastic. As soon as a little bit of heat hits it, the aroma gets very pungent, and that's exactly what I'm smelling right now. So I'm just gonna hit each one of these with a little bit of new solder. And it's obviously a lot of solder, but it helps the heat transfer. And if I recall correctly, there's only 3 major types of capacitors on these boards. So we have 1 microfarad 50 volts, 47 microfarads, or 10 microfarad 16 volts, right? So 47 microfarad 16 volts, and then what are these ones? 10 microfarad 16 volts. So these are 10 microfarad 16s, 1 microfarad 50, 10 microfarad 16. And so the reason I'm putting the new solder on is you know, like I said, it's heat transfer. We want to make sure that the whole joint is totally heated up before attempting to unsolder it, because when this cap juice starts eating at the motherboard, it sort of loosens the adherence of the traces a little bit, and it's really easy to lose traces if you're not careful. Sorry, 1 second. Oh shit. All right, sorry, folks. My chat wasn't showing up. So yeah, sorry everybody. Hey Garth. Hey Eric. Thank you guys for stopping by. Um, so yeah. Yes, Garth. Yell at me for saying motherboard instead of logic board. All right, my chat's working now. So sorry, I wasn't ignoring y'all. It just wasn't showing up for me. I saw that there were people there, but it wasn't showing that any of the people were talking. So I was fine with that. I was talking to myself, obviously. I swear, Garth, I was looking the whole time. It was YouTube. YouTube didn't want me to talk to y'all. Okay. I thought something might have been wrong with the stream because I could still see myself moving, but I couldn't see like the time counting up. And so normally it shows you like how much time has passed since you started your stream. All right, so I'm just gonna lay a good amount of heat on here. Actually, I'm even gonna pop some flux on these things since they are all very smelly. It doesn't hurt to get the flux started early. And we'll come back and eventually clean up all that flux and stuff. Just gonna put it around a lot of places. Also, my flux smells better than the cap juice. So that's one of the benefits of using the flux here, because it prevents me from having to smell the cap juice quite so much. You know, I'm going back and forth on the hot air right now because, well, one, I normally like to use my soldering iron on these, but there's just so much cap juice that I really think I should be using the hot air for this one. The issue is that my hot air station likes to cause my lights to flicker, so we'll see how that goes. I haven't used my hot air on a stream before. Pop that on. Let's see. Alright, let's try this hot air and see how this goes on this. Actually, could you guys let me know if the sound is too bad from the hot air station, and I will mute myself so that the hot air doesn't make everything sound awful. Alright, so let's start with that one. So the bad part of using hot air is that sometimes they explode. The caps will explode. That one was good. How was the sound on that? And actually, it's not destroying my lights today. Yeah. There's a little bit of weird screen flickering, it looks like. Alright. Let me grab... Alright, cool. So the sound isn't too awful. So I'm kind of low tech here. Gonna use some razor blades. Try to protect the plastic. Oh, I said that the flux helped the cap juice smell. It's not great. Still, we're getting a little bit of burned plastic smell. Oh, and I just dislodged that thing. Alright, I think my, well, we'll fix that at some point. Turn on over here. Oh, that's gonna blow. So my microphone is, I don't know. I remember it was like a really cheap thing. I think it's called a Samsung or something. Samson. And the quality is fine, but it's really quiet. And I have a, oh, that one exploded after it went off the heat. I have a Focusrite Scarlett 2i that's my audio interface. And I really like the audio interface, but overall between the microphone and that audio interface, it's a very quiet setup. Basically, I have it almost totally cranked, and in OBS I have like a plus 15 decibel setting to amp up the audio from within OBS. Oh, now you can't even see what I'm doing here. Okay. Come on over here. Yeah, so the hot air was the way to go on this one. Makes things a little bit faster. Oh, shot this one off into nowhere. Okay. I think I might have used slightly too high of a temperature on this. That one. I gotta set up a shield. What size nozzle am I using? I don't know. Is that about a 1/4 inch? It's the smallest one that came with my hot air station, so I have a quick D6 681, no, a quick 861 DW. I'll turn down my temperature a little bit before I do these next ones. I'm going to use this to block off from the power connector. I'm not really worried about the battery holder because I'm probably going to replace that anyway, but it's fine to leave for now. Gotta wait for my hot air station to cool down before I can change the temperature. Okay. I was at 370. Gonna go down to 350. And yeah, I found I like the angled nozzle a lot for this kind of work. That's good. And that should be our last one. And I'm being really careful with these. You don't want to pull on them. You want to wait until they move. Okay. We have everything. Ow, that's hot. Ow, that's hot. Okay, so we're all decapped. This is a reasonably new cotton swab. There we go. The words, they're coming to me today. Gonna soak everything. So I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, and that's not great for this kind of work. It would be great to just douse this thing in an ultrasonic cleaner and then never have to worry about any residual stuff. Look at this. There's some burned up gunk on there. Get another one. Yeah, so the caps exploding is generally the reason I like to use my regular handheld soldering iron to do these jobs, but it does, the hot air station makes this a lot easier to do. So much gunk on this board. Thanks for stopping by, Eric. Sorry I missed you most of your time here. kind of fun conversation did I miss? Oh, I'm so mad I missed it. Thank you, YouTube. I can see there's a big, long chat chain. I'll have to go back and read it later. Alright, so just by eye, I feel like most of these traces are good. Normally you can tell right away if you start working on this and then you see one of the pads start shifting. So luckily we don't have that problem happening. Oh, I also forgot to shut off my regular soldering iron, so I'm glad I didn't blow a circuit. My electric out here at the big bed bench is not so great. Kind of surprised. Alright, so here's our pile of dead caps. Some of this juice. Oh, look at this juice. Oh, you can't see it. You can see some there. Lots of nasty juice. Okay. Just kind of give it a quick look. Make sure I didn't desolder anything from the back of the board. So the main thing I screwed up during this was I shifted that component right there. So gotta take care of that. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is actually take it completely off first. Set that aside. I can go in and just clean up the traces since I have it off anyway. Alright, so I'm just going to shift my microscope a little bit towards me. Switch over to microscope view. Let's see if I destroyed anything with my desoldering. Alright, it's ugly, but it's not bad. It's not bad. We can work with that. Okay, need another cotton swab. So, I've been thinking about what purchase I should make next for my channel. Oh, got a big old solder blob there, that solder ball that's rolling around. And I think the most logical thing to buy is a new microscope, because really I like my little microscope and it's fine for my own personal use, but it doesn't have a great working distance for trying to take video while I'm streaming, or take video while I'm working. If it's my own work under here, I can deal with it, but when it's trying to stream, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, we can see there that those traces all look pretty good. I mean, this is just some solder bridges I made from my mess. Let's get some more. This propanol. Yeah, actually, an ultrasonic cleaner was one of the other things I thought about too, instead. So I'm like going back and forth between an ultrasonic cleaner, um, a better microscope, or what was the other thing? An oscilloscope. Um, so trying to decide what to do. I think eventually I'll get all of them, but for the time being, I can really only afford one at a time. If I could just stop coming across things that I should buy. So the two SEs I bought, so there's the two SEs, the keyboards, and it came with a Apple II disk drive, and what else did it come with? An image writer and a joystick for an Apple II, which is really cool. So I paid $100 for all that stuff, which is more than I would like to pay, but it's better than letting things get destroyed. What the heck am I looking at here? Oh, this thing. There's some grossness there. But yeah, if I could stop finding stuff, I could focus more money on building my workshop up. I did buy a new camera, but it wound up being awful. So I'm still just using my iPhone for my main upper camera. Going through these, you kind of want to take note as, okay, there's some discoloration there, but is that discoloration corrosion, or is that just some flux and other residue? And that's one of the reasons why a ultrasonic bath is nice, because you can do that. Oh geez. Alright, good luck, Garth. Thanks for stopping by, and again, sorry I missed you for most of it. Yeah, a lot of this solder mask is actually in good shape, so it's probably just residue. You can generally tell if it's corrosion by how easily the solder mask falls off of the board. I don't like the look of the two sides of that thing, of that trace. think we might have caught this board like just in time, because with as much cap juice as was on that thing, these traces all look real nice. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, excuse me, is I'm going to put some flux down. And then I'm going to use some solder wick to get rid of all that old solder. Again, because my microscope does not have a great working distance, this is kind of a pain in the butt for me. But I do it all for you all. Oh, I gotta trim my solder wick. See when we get done there, get some really nice clear solder pads. Gonna trim a little bit more of my wick. Shiny, happy pads. They don't get much better than that. And so as you're doing this, if it seems like the wick isn't working as well, if you buy cheap wick like I do, always just add more flux if needed. Doesn't hurt to use more flux. Unless you use really cheap flux that burns up quickly. Oops, sorry. The other thing I'm doing that's not the smartest thing is soldering while wearing gloves. I generally don't like to do it in case I accidentally melt the glove. I don't want it melting to my skin. I normally don't wear gloves when I work, but most of these Macs were so freaking gross. I really did not want to touch them. Okay, so this one was the one that might have had some weirdness around. Oh wait, no, there was that right there. Let's take a look at that real quick before we move on and I forget about it. I have just getting an X-Acto. Again, because my working distance is really short here, it makes doing this kind of thing difficult. So, alright, so I got most of that mask off. So I'm going to come back in with my solder wick. And sort of use it as like a little brush to clean that up a little bit. And you can see now we have this totally tinned. And while we're looking at it, I'm just going to hit it with my voltmeter. Beepity beep machine. We got beep. Okay, so that trace is good. At least for there. Let's see, let's go, I think it goes to here. Yeah, okay, good. Alright, so we got a good trace there. Where's my next one? Okay, there's that one. Let's clean this one up. See what it looks like after we get off some of this stuff. Some grossness there, but nothing to be concerned about. Just some stuff that needs to be cleaned up. Okay, and so this, see how easily all that solder mask fell off of there? So yeah, that must have been a little corroded. And I got this little guy hanging out. Piece of my solder wick. Good reason not to use cheap solder wick, huh? Okay. Alright, so that all looks good. Let's move on over here. Flux this up. Gotta take off one of my gloves because it's scarcely a glove. This part is kind of tight because of the main power connector. Don't want to burn that up. Probably wouldn't damage it, but don't want it to look ugly. Alright, while I'm looking at that one, let's just try. Okay. I was kind of worried about that little line that was right there. Sometimes they just look like that. Sometimes they're little breaks. Okay, I'm gonna flux up a bunch of stuff here real quick. So one of the mistakes I often make when well, not often, but it happens. While you're using your solder braid, if you're not really careful about when you're heating and pulling on it, you can potentially pull off a trace. And so I generally try to move the solder wick before the soldering iron. So I sort of use the wick as the thing that I pull, and I just sort of let the soldering iron be my be like a rider. Okay, so these are the spots where I screwed up that component. Trim in my wick. I was sort of concerned about that via, but I think we're good there. Alright, and looks good. Now let's come up to this mess. You can see there's some traces there that are gonna need a little bit of cleanup. Let's get some flux on over here. Snip my wick. Come back over here, sort of use my wick as a brush again. See all that solder mask came off, which, you know, I was pushing on it, but it definitely was weak. Okay. Alright. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Gotta turn this ever so slightly. Where was that nasty little trace at? Yeah, that one right there on the corner. There we go. Alright, that looks good. Snip my wick. Okay, that one looks good. And then this one, this one I still have nightmares about this one in my other system, from my other system. Come on, you thing. Alright, so that looks good. Just gonna check with my eyeballs. Okay. Let's see this little guy. Clean that up a little. Let's switch up to the upstairs camera. get rid of all these caps, like little popcorns. Alrighty, let's do some cleanups. Oh, I see a rogue solder ball right there. So I am being very liberal with the isopropanol because some of the times this cap juice is going to get underneath all of these other ICs and it could cause issues there. So not just around the caps, but around and under all of these ICs. So having a little extra isopropanol is kind of a good thing for trying to resolve issues that could happen there. And again, that's why ultrasonic cleaners are really good for this kind of thing, because it's going to get all up underneath of the ICs and make it really clean everything out. So you hear like Bruce Rain talk about, like, one of the streams he was having issues with one of his systems getting it to post, but he posted shortly thereafter that after an ultrasonic bath it worked great, and that's because you're getting rid of that electrolyte that's conductive, and you're getting it out of underneath of all these chips. So this is like a really not great way to clean under the chips, just by sort of dousing everything with isopropanol, but it's better than nothing. So we'll see what happens. I do have an ultrasonic cleaner that I have access to, that I prefer not to use it if I don't have to. Get the whole board. Alright, you can see compared, the first one's already gone, but the second one looked like that, and we're making this cleaner as we go along. A lot of that is the flux that sort of has burned along the way, but yeah, it's gross. Yes, the big bad bench is gonna need a new paint job soon. It's been a while. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my Mac Plus Classic II. Real quick, let's set this aside. Cloth. Okay. Pop this up. I don't think I put screws back in. No. Again, it's just that top that's sticky. Okay, here we go. Oops, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna grab my board out of here. We're gonna use this as our template for recapping. Okay, so all those are in their right spots. I've gone in, double checked that, triple checked that. So I'm 99.7% sure that I have them all in the right spot. Okay, what did I do with that little IC? Okay, so that would be kind of bad. Oh no, here we go. Okay, we got our little IC. We're good. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is gonna tin one side of all of these solder, of all these locations where the caps go. So all the solder pads out of the pair, just hit one side. Okay. And it doesn't matter what side we start off with. And here I'm gonna hit there, and there, and here, there. I generally, if it's in a position that's hard to get to, I'm gonna try to solder that side first, the harder side first. So like here, we're sort of crammed between a couple things, and I know I'm gonna wind up having the iron hit something it's not supposed to. Okay, so you can see how this is all, since we did all that work to make it nice and clean, you can see how all the solder flows really nice and evenly as soon as you touch it. We're not like fighting to get the solder pads heated up and ready to go. Okay, so we've got our model board. So let's start off with these bigger ones. So here's our 47 microfarad 16 volt. We need 1, 2, 3 of those. Buy all these things from Mouser.com. Mouser.com, if you're watching and you want to sponsor stuff in the future, let's talk. Okay, so let's start off over here. The plus side is over here. For the tantalum caps, our plus side has the stripe on it. So back in the old days, well, not the old days, but when we're dealing with the electrolytic caps, the stripe is the minus side. But for tantalums, we're on the positive side. do is get this sort of in position, then heat up the solder that we placed, get it lined up, and then go away. Okay, so that one's good. Well, one side of that one's good. Let's go up to this one. So this is another 47 microfarad. The plus side is the other side, the non-soldered side. So like I said, this is kind of difficult. And you could use hot air for this, but hot air turns these tantalums an ugly color. So I like to do all my soldering on of the tantalums with a regular soldering iron. Okay, then there's that one, and then this one should be the last 47 microfarad. Okay, and we'll come in and hit the other side real quick for all of those. Clean my tip. Alright, so then we have our 1 microfarad 50 volt, and we have 2 of those. One of them goes here, and the other one goes here. Soldering iron. Alright. And our plus is towards me. Alright. So you can see all of our solder joints are nice and shiny. Okay. Come through and hit the other sides of those two. There. there. Alright, so now all the remaining ones are 10 microfarad, 16 volts. Hopefully I have enough. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think I got enough. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start off with those 5. Give me your little cap. Okay. All right. You can place a couple at a time. I generally will lose them if I place too many. Hey, 1-Bit Fever Dreams, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, there were some people here earlier, and YouTube decided that I didn't need to see them until way too late in the stream. And then I figured that out. Alright. Luckily I could see you. Alright, plus stripe, plus stripe. Gonna hit the other sides of those with the solder now. Okay. Those are good. Now I gotta go 3 more. Yeah, so the video wobbliness, well, yeah, it should do that. Yeah, I was thinking about Mac Pluses, so I've been working on a Mac Plus that has some wobbly video, and I think it's actually due to bad resistors. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I redid the caps and it didn't help. So it's either resistors or there's potentially like a MOSFET, I think, on the Plus. But yeah, the Classic definitely needs to. The analog boards are a mess. I've even had them where the voltage actually kind of looked okay coming out of the power supply, but it was so ugly. Okay, so that's those 3, and come back, hit the other sides. All right. pretty good now. While I'm thinking about it, I had a little mishap with my hot air station earlier. And I took off a component I shouldn't have. So let's get that component back on there. Or, well, we'll tack it on to get started. Clean off all the cap juice on this thing. This was oriented like this. So what I did was I just tinned the opposite corners to get started here. So we're going to hit it on there, get it laid flat. On that side. Okay. Did I verify the inside of my hot air station if it's a Chinese market thing? I don't know. I kind of assumed my hot air station is a Chinese market one. I mean, it's a quick, so I thought those were all just Chinese ones. Is that because, did you see my comment on somebody's post about how it makes the lights flicker? I never really assumed that Quick would be like the highest end kind of thing. I assumed it was just like a Chinese brand. Oh, the fuses tend to be. Oh, geez. That's great. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I did find out here, so my workshop's basically in an old barn that had been hacked together in different ways over the years, and I found that some of the electric is actually the wrong way, and so my live is actually neutral, or my hot is neutral, and vice versa. So I've corrected it as I've found it, but maybe my hot air station is in one of the bad places, or maybe it's wired up correctly now because it's wrong. Okay. Let's see. We need 1, 2, 3, 4 more of these. That away before I lose it. Okay, so this one. That way. Alright. It's 3 to go. So it kind of looks like I'm just dragging this board around on the bench, and I guess I kind of am, but in reality I'm trying to be careful as I'm moving it. These boards do have surface mount components on the bottom, and so you do want to be careful when you're moving them around and not accidentally drag them and pull something off. And also, if you have a board that's been battery bombed, some of that juice can work its way down through the vias and destroy stuff on the back of the board as well. So definitely be double careful. Oh, I forgot a cap. Okay, got one more after this one. So yeah, definitely be doubly careful with these things. Yes, it's survival of the component fittest, or the fittest component. Um, let's misuse Darwin like everybody does. Alright, let's take a look. Oh, geez, I missed 2 of them. Okay, we need 2 more caps. 2 more. Let's do this one first because it's easier. Okay. And then our last one. Whew. Oh, I'm really looking forward to seeing if this thing posts. Okay. Oh, goes the other way. Alright, so I think that's everything. Alright, so let me set my soldering iron down before I burn myself. Alright, let's just double check our polarities. Stripe plus, 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 and stripe plus. Okay, those are all good. I didn't do this one. This one was on the board. Stripe plus, 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 plus. Okay, so these are all good. Let's see if we got bong. I just want to look real quick in the microscope with my eye, just to see if that component that I screwed up looks okay. Oh yeah, it looks lovely. Alright, so let's zoom out and let's try this thing out. Where's my chassis? Okay, so this is my Mac Plus chassis. I have recapped most of the analog board. I don't remember if I did the big ones or not. Okay, here. Let me look underneath, just make sure I didn't leave anything that's conductive under there. Got chime. Yes. Oh. Sweet. Alright, I'll be right back. Oh, my workshop is such a mess. So I actually don't know the status of that board before today. I did not try it because so at the in midstream when we looked in it, it was bad. There was cap juice everywhere, and so it was something that I didn't want to power on before doing the cap job. But the reason I'm really excited is because of this. So this is, this chassis and this motherboard are my Classic II. And this board is corrupted. Like it does weird stuff. And so I don't have any more Mac Classic II parts to work with. So I've had trouble trying to troubleshoot the main problem area. And so now that I have a good board, I can sort of swap components over. Like the first thing I really want to try is the ROMs. I've been worried that the ROMs are corrupted on my board. So the motherboard or logic board that's currently in this system, let's switch up my view a little bit here so you can see my really messy workbench. So the logic board out of this one is from a colleague's, and I told him that I would sort of preserve his system for it. There was a note on the system that it was tested in like 2002 or something like that. Let's give this thing a little bit of a snooper test. I don't know where my loopback connectors are, so we'll skip the COM port. So I know that the analog board on this one is good because I have a Mac Classic 1. that I recapped and redid the analog board and redid the logic board on that one. And so I know this chassis is good. So it was just a matter of trying to get a logic board that works. And plus, even if it did work, and if I broke it during the recap job, you know, it's always a possibility. I don't think I've permanently broken anything, but, you know, mistakes happen. All right, thanks for stopping by one bit. It's always good to see you. Alright, so once I let this thing run through just one quick cycle of Snooper, I'm gonna shut this back down. Alright, so let's end this. View log. We have no fails, so that's exciting. Alright, so let's shut this down. And just gonna pop out this logic board and put in mine to show you what mine does. We get weird video and there's that noise. And it's kind of a scary noise. But yeah, that's what my Classic II motherboard does. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is take the ROMs off of my board and put them in the other one. Gonna move the camera. Just watch yourself real quick. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. Alright, I know which one is mine. So I'm just gonna write on here mine. Want to double check to make sure these are in the right spots. 0257, 0261. Yep. Okay, so it's not like they were switched or anything. Oh, sorry, can't see what I'm doing. So I'm just using my tweezers as an IC puller because I don't have a IC puller that's good for chips this big. Just going very gently, slowly. Okay, got that one. And mine should come out pretty easily because I deoxided the hell out of these sockets, thinking that that could potentially be a problem. I could see that, you know, the reason that I kind of worried that these ROMs might be corrupt is because I don't know why they did it, but Apple made these sockets, well, put the ROM chips that they use are smaller than the sockets. And so sometimes if people are working on the systems and don't know about that, they put the ROMs in the wrong location, and you know the little recess is on this side and the dots are on this side, so you'd think, okay, yeah, let's put the ROM chips over there, but in reality they have to be spaced down over here. Okay, so these are my ROM chips in the new recapped board, not my board. Oh, sorry, I'm breaking things. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here, folks. So let's see what happens here. We got chime. So that means that my ROMs are good. So that's a good thing. That's one potential problem that I've eliminated now. So yay. So I'm gonna let that boot up. Nothing to see there. I didn't do that. Okay. Alright, so I'm not going to go through the whole process right now because the stream has already been going on for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. But the other troubleshooting thing that this is going to allow me to do is sort of see how the voltages in this board are supposed to work. So you can take a regular old ATX extension, plug it in like that. Just double checking because, yeah, okay. Wanted to make sure it was a regular old ATX extension. Let's pop this back on. Okay, so we can see the system running outside of the chassis. And basically what I can do now is go around and figure out what voltages are supposed to be at different locations on this board. So you can see we get weird stuff like 4 volts and 8 volts. And so hopefully what that'll do is allow me to go through my board and see if there's a voltage that's weird somewhere. And what that could indicate is some sort of component that is fried and causing a short. And so it's going to take a little bit of tweaking, and I don't have the time to do that right now. Yeah, so alright, so this was a good stream. We got some SEs taken apart. We got batteries taken out of 2 of them. One of them already had the battery taken out, but unfortunately it also had the hard drive taken out. So then we got our Mac Classic II motherboard recapped, and so that is all functioning. That's going to be a huge diagnostic use for me, and it also we've preserved this board because, you know, with all the cap juice that was all over that board, it was only a matter of time before all the traces started to go. So yeah, I want to thank Garth Beagle and Eric from Eric's Edge and 1-Bit Fever Dreams for stopping by today. Make sure to check out all their channels. And yeah, I want to thank everyone that's recently subscribed to my channel. So if you have projects that you want to see done, leave a comment and let me know what you would like to see done. I have all kinds of retro computing projects that need to happen. I'm probably going to come back and rebuild my gaming PC this week, which is also sort of a retro Mac thing. So you'll see what that's all about when I go to do that project. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I know this was kind of a long stream, but we got a lot done. So thank you all.